All right, Mark, congratulations again. Next week will be 90 days since Marissa West started in her new job as President and Senior Vice President of General Motors North America. The bar at GM was raised last year. GM finished 2023 up 14%, its best year since 2019. But she knows how to meet expectations. In her prior role as head of GM Canada, GM took the lead in total market share in 2023, and she secured investment for all 3 Canadian manufacturing operations. Joining us for her first public engagement as the President and Senior Vice President of GM North America, please welcome Marissa West.
Hi, Jason.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for that. Great to be here.
Yeah, your first appearance.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Not
exciting.
in New York, obviously, but in front of this crowd and with the new title. So let's talk about the new job.
Sure.
90 days, 3 months in.
Yeah, it's an inflection point in the first 90 days. So it's been great. As you mentioned, I'm coming here most recently. I was the President and Managing Director at GM Canada. So I had the opportunity to really lead that entire organization. But the vehicle sales service and marketing, of course, was a prime priority. Working with our broad dealer network across Canada was fantastic. Grew up in the product development organization of General Motors. Worked here for over 20 years now. And so I'm really excited and proud to be here in this role at this very pivotal time for the industry.
Yeah, some people probably wouldn't know in the audience, your background's all engineering, mostly. I mean, you were at the center of Sierra, right? Basically the truck side. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get there? Did you grow up wanting to be an engineer?
So, funny story, in living in Michigan, it's not unusual to be closely integrated with the auto industry one way or another. I personally am a 4th generation GM employee.
That's right,
so,
4th generation.
It was very front and center in my family. I never wanted to or considered working for another company. But I also remember attending actually the Detroit International Auto Show as a kid every single year. And I used to collect the brochures from all of the different stands. And I would actually go home and play car dealership. So I would use the brochures as if they were the properties that I had to sell.
Okay.
So I was interested in cars for as long as I can remember, and interested in the industry, and having General Motors so prominent in my life and in my family, I gravitated towards a career in the industry. I always knew I had a love and a desire to be in the marketing and the business side, but I also had some capabilities in math and science, and my dad highly encouraged me to go get the engineering degree, and then you open so many doors, which is what I did, and I ended up loving engineering. So the first about 18 years of my career was in engineering, and you mentioned the Sierra, and we won't leave his sibling or her sibling, the Silverado, out of that, but throughout my career I worked in a variety of different roles. Just prior to going to Canada, my previous 2 jobs were as a chief engineer in the full-size pickup. So I launched the heavy-duty pickup trucks in 2019. They were 2020 model years. That was a major program, incredibly important to our customers. We were really proud of that product. So being the chief engineer on that one was certainly a career highlight. I later became the executive chief on the mid-size truck, medium-duty truck, and van programs. So now that the Colorado and the Canyon are out there, really proud of that one as well. Then I moved over to Canada. So I would say the company and the product are near and dear to my heart, and I was always interested in the industry.
So what did you learn from the engineering side that you're applying now in your current role?
That's a great question. What was most interesting to me, about 10 years into my career, I had an opportunity, and I actually just was talking to some of our GM dealers, and I brought up this story. I was what was called a lead development engineer, and my job was to define the vehicle technical specifications, how the integration of the vehicle would come together to deliver on the performance of that vehicle for the customer. In that role, I worked really closely with the program team and with the marketing organization, and early on in a product development cycle, we were talking about what does the product have to be at the end, so that we meet the market needs, so that we really understood the customer, and then work backwards to engineer and design exactly what was going to be well suited for the market. And I would say it was in that role that I really saw the intersection of engineering, marketing, and then ultimately how do we really satisfy the customer, which is how we really will have sustainable success. So from that role on, I kind of aspired to not only have the opportunity to work on the programs from an engineering perspective and really define what the vehicle will be, how we're going to content it, how we're going to engineer it, and what the performance of it will be, such that it will be really successful and it will really be able to capture the hearts and minds of our customers. And then I can work in the role that I'm in now and in Canada, and actually work with the teams who are partnering with all of our dealers to go out and actually present these fantastic products and capture the customers' minds and hearts.
And some wouldn't know that you were in, actually, one of the areas you focused on was noise handling for product development. I mean, the trucks are no longer what we used to think of, certainly 20 years ago, what a truck was from a technological standpoint. But the refinement of these vehicles, share a little bit of that, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent about 10 years of my career at Milford Proving Ground. A good portion of that was in noise and vibration, and that was really closely coupled with vehicle ride and handling. And what it is it's how do you really design and integrate a vehicle such that it comes together and the total package delivers on the performance experience that the customer demands. So, a seat is a seat, and the shocks are the shocks, but it's, I believe, the beauty in how you integrate those and how you really, you specify the parts first of all, but also you tune the parts. And so that was kind of the core of the engineering work that I was doing as a performance development engineer for a good part of my career. I also had the opportunity, I was the director of the Global Noise and Vibration Center, which was establishing really what was the contenting strategy, and they were different by brand. And we were very focused on making sure that we were growing the brand in the way that we were designing and engineering the products. So you know that you have a different character, you have a different performance criteria for a GMC versus a Buick versus a Cadillac. And so they're not just different by the way that they look and the way that they're designed, they're actually different by the way that they're engineered and contented, so that they're really delivering some differentiation across the brands, but true to the brand DNA, and even defining what those brands need to be, which is what's so exciting about the marketing side of the business and the brand growth and strength that we have.
So you go from that to indeed handling the marketing side of the business and the sales side and being in charge of a region. That's about 10% the size of the American market. What did you learn from dealers, who I'm sure you probably had very little interaction with in your prior role? It might go all the way back to the Detroit Auto Show and your role-playing of a dealership. But what did you learn in the Canadian market about dealers?
So I became a hard, fast believer that dealers are a competitive advantage. I think everything sort of starts with the product in this business, but it very quickly, this is a people business, right? Customers are coming from all walks of life, from all different levels of awareness and knowledge of vehicles and what's the right vehicle for them. And when I started to work with our dealers in Canada, and across such a vast country, but we have a great dealer network in Canada, not unlike our dealer network in the U.S. And just seeing the enthusiasm and the entrepreneurship and the focus that they have on the customer, and it's apparent that hopefully there's a fantastic customer experience. They love their vehicle and nothing ever goes wrong. But that's not always the case. And then when they do need support, when they do need service, even if it's routine service or they were in an accident or whatever the case may be, the way that our dealers can really develop that relationship, embrace the customer, and take care of them through the entire ownership experience, it really resonated with me. I also really valued the unique approach that they all have to the business and the diversity that brings, and the way that they have the opportunity and ability to work together in some cases to really find success. And I really truly believe that's a competitive advantage. One of my key priorities is keeping the customer at the center. That's true, that's within our culture at GM, but I think that's incredibly important as we're in this point in the fast-paced, ever-evolving world that we live in. The reality is it comes down to delivering a great customer experience and a product that they can rely on.
So let's talk product, because that's your background, obviously, and now mixed in with your other duties. A lot of conversation already today, internal combustion, EVs. Where do we land on consumer acceptance now? How are we adjusting what you're doing?
Yeah, there's so much discussion about it, and the reality is we continue to see adoption grow for electric vehicles. We're not seeing it grow at quite the same pace. In fact, the retail market's still growing quite a bit, and then there's some wobbliness in the fleet space, I would say. But the reality is that there's growing consumer adoption for electric vehicles. We continue to see strength in the ICE business. We continue to see a lot of consumer demand. People are buying internal combustion engines, and at GM, we think it's a really exciting time because we have a full portfolio in both. 2024 is a really exciting launch year for us. We're going to launch 6 new EVs. We're going to launch 6 new ICE vehicles across North America. So we're in a really good position, I would say, to be flexible and continue to pace customer demand and meet them where they're at on their journey to the all-electric future.
This came up during my conversation with Dimitri Salakis. If you look at consumer demand not matching maybe what the stake in the ground was, either from governmental organizations or from automakers themselves, how do you slow walk that, I guess?
I think I would say it's important. Regulation is going to influence consumer behavior. Regulation is going to influence, what we as OEMs invest in and how we invest. But the reality is, customers are going to make their choice. And what we can do as automakers is deliver a product that they don't have to compromise on. So you deliver a product to a customer that allows them to go about their business and do whatever it is that they need to do with an automobile that they need to do. And that's where we remain focused. And that's why we're launching, some of the most capable EVs. Our pickup trucks, for example, have the highest range for electric pickup trucks with the most capability. You can trailer with them. You can use Super Cruise to trailer with them. So a customer is not going to have to compromise on anything that they do with the vehicle. It's worth noting that there's a fact that we have to outgrow the infrastructure in this country and across the continent. It's true in Canada as well. And until we really get to a point where customers don't have to think about how they will recharge their electric vehicle, there's a potential for there to be a concern. I believe that I believe the industry and that's changing very quickly and rapidly, building out the infrastructure. But the good news in the meantime is that we have a portfolio, so depending on what your needs are, you don't have to compromise and you're not forced into one propulsion technology or another. We have the luxury of choice.
You mentioned that you talked to some dealers who are here already. What are they telling you about what should occur and what they're hearing from customers? Because some folks who I've already chatted with earlier today are saying, look, my EVs are piling up on my lot.
So dealers will routinely tell us that they want what the customers want. And so I think there's a lot of different scenarios depending on what region you're in. We see demand for EVs, is somewhat geographical, but the reality is people are continuing to seek out EVs and shop for them. And if you have a great package, which means it has the capability that they're looking for, it has the price point that they're looking for, and it has a beautiful design that they're looking for, then there's a desire to adopt EVs. And we're committed to really allowing the customer demand to dictate the volumes and what we're providing. And our dealers are our partners in that. And so we're listening to their feedback. And some of it's education. We're working with our dealers. They recognize too that some people don't know what to expect in EV ownership, and they see that part of their role can be to help and educate them, help understand how can they get charging installed in their home, how can they, what is the technology on the vehicle that helps make charging seamless. You have an app on your phone that will show you where all the charging stations are, and some of these things will melt away the concerns of customers, and then they realize, oh, this is a really convenient, really great cost of ownership, really good vehicle for me. And I'm grateful for our dealer partners to continue to carry that message.
And I'm guessing GM's flexibility in manufacturing will help dictate the pathway that you go in the future.
It absolutely does. So we have multiple plants where, the same line, we're building EV vehicles as well as internal combustion engine vehicles. We also have a plant like Factory Zero in Michigan where we have, 4 different electric models, and so we can determine what the volume is based on that manufacturing flexibility. So we're pretty pleased with our opportunity to remain flexible and agile through this transition period, recognizing that we're still convinced that the long term is an electric future, but we see that there will be a journey to get there, and we're on that journey.
Digital retailing and the dealership experience, what are you doing in that regard? How are you working with your dealer partners in order to make digital retailing a more seamless process?
Yeah, I think this is really important, actually. It's one of my key priorities, and I've used the terminology, modernizing the retail experience. And the reality is, look, there is a customer out there that's very comfortable with a direct-to-consumer model. Some other OEMs have proven that fact. I believe that there's a full spectrum of customers. I believe that there are customers, again, with that level of comfort to do everything online, and then there's customers that recognize this is a very significant purchase, and there's a lot of variables that go into the purchase, whether you have a trade-in or what the trade-in value is, what features do you need on a vehicle, what's the right vehicle for you, depending on your driving behaviors. And so there are all of these different points in the buying process where a customer might get to the point where they'd rather talk to a human. They'd rather, get some advice or have that seamless handoff to a trusted dealer partner. And so what we're doing is really a fully integrated omni-channel experience where we have the configurator and everything available through our digital retail platform such that a customer can go on, and we're rolled out with our Cadillac dealers now. So for example, you can go in and you can configure your Cadillac Lyriq, and you can go all the way through the process if you want, right up to, completing the financing and completing the sale and arranging the delivery with a local dealer of your choice. Through this omni-channel experience, which, by the way, our Cadillac dealers went from like 12th place for the online experience to 2nd place with our digital retail platform, because it's very user-friendly, it's very customer-focused. And so we're rolling that out in scale. We have, all of our Chevrolet dealers are on the path for 2024, because I believe you have to be prepared to meet the customer where they are. So wherever they're at on the spectrum, how they want to buy their vehicle, we need to be there with them, and we need to make that, we need to make sure it's visible to them what the vehicles are, where they can get them, and how they can have that seamless handoff to the dealer, because ultimately the dealer is going to make sure that they receive their vehicle and they know how to have that vehicle serviced, and they can present the vehicle and help educate on any of the features. So again, whatever the customer wants to know, the dealers and their fantastic teams at all of our stores are prepared to sort of pick up where they left off with the digital platform.
Let's, just in the final few minutes here, let's walk through a few brands and maybe brand updates for those in the room who have these. Buick, I'm seeing a whole raft of rejuvenation, reinvention, in other parts of the world. China, Buick has obviously, had a great deal of success. Here, it's no secret to say that it's been a challenge. Where are we on the Buick journey?
Yeah, so we're well along. We have introduced a new design language for Buick, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And some might say it's exceptional by design. The Buick is really a luxury brand experience. It's beautiful. going back to my noise and vibration days, actually, I was very deeply integrated to what we called the quiet tuning strategy. But really everything about the Buick is about over-delivering on a seamless and luxury customer experience, just something that a customer gets in, knows, and loves. And the design language is fantastic. The new badge is fresh, and we're attracting younger buyers than ever before. It was the fastest growing brand in North America last year, growing 65% year over year. And actually, by the time we're done with a couple new vehicle launches this year, it will have the freshest lineup in the industry.
Okay.
So Buick is doing quite well.
How's the Hummer experiment going?
Well, I would say we're well past experimentation, and we're actually entering into high volume. So the production is going really well. That's one of the trucks that we build at Factory Zero in Detroit. We have the Hummer SUT, which is the pickup truck form factor, and we have the SUV, which is really a fantastic vehicle. It's stunning, and it is a price point that's attracting a lot of attention. And right now, our demand is still outpacing our production. So Hummer is doing quite well, and we're really proud of that super truck.
And speaking of trucks, how does, let's go back to your former days for a moment. How will Silverado and Sierra balance that line of, traditional ICE buyers, possible EV buyers, and the transition that the lineup will go through?
Yeah, so first of all, Sierra Denali EV will launch this year, and Silverado RST will launch this year. And it's really the foray into no compromise electric pickup truck, and we'll continue to launch additional trim levels after those first two first edition models launch this year. And the fact of the matter is, you'll have similar to what you have in the ICE portfolio today, where you have a truck with a trim level that suits your needs and your price point, and that's what we'll introduce with the Silverado EV RST, and then we'll have some of the other trims coming, and same with Sierra. And customers, they're not going to have to compromise. They're going to be able to do everything that their pickup truck needs to do. They'll just do it with an electric propulsion as opposed to an internal combustion engine. And so it's a really important segment, and it's where there's a lot of volume, so we're anxious to get those out into market.
And I know it's not specifically where you focus most of your day, but if I say GM dealership in this room, GM dealer's going to think facilities and upgrades, facility upgrades. What's your message to dealers who are here who say, well, GM wants me to upgrade my facilities?
That's a great question. So what I will say is, we at GM continue to make massive investments in our product portfolio and ensuring that we have really the best product lineup that we've ever had for all the brands, and we intend to continue to do that for another 100 years or God willing. So I think it's a reasonable expectation to also partner with dealers and compel them to continue to invest in their businesses as we do. But I talk with dealers all the time. Hey, we're very reasonable, and we understand that there has to be a compelling proposition to make sure that we're not changing our minds every year. We've worked with them a lot on the EV investments, and we've been very grateful for many of our dealers. We're happy to come along with us on the journey for the EV future. They are bought into the vision, and they continue to make those investments, whether it's in the infrastructure or whether it's in sort of the branding and that. So I think we try to be reasonable, but with any business, you tend to have to continue to invest.
Actually, I did talk to one GM dealer who told me, not related to facilities, but related to EVs, used EVs are flying off the lot thanks to tax credits. Mm-hmm. What happens when those go away?
So I think what happens is the key is affordability. I know that. There's a lot of discussion about that. And there's one thing I know about the auto industry, and it's a scale business. Automakers, dealers, we have to make money. We have to be profitable to allow us to continue to invest. And the cost of an electric vehicle, material cost right now, is more than an internal combustion engine. So I think these, Support for the consumer is to help bring an electric vehicle into a price point that they can afford at a point in time when the material cost exceeds that of a comparable ICE vehicle. So over time, we're going to get the scale. We're already seeing raw materials are starting to come down. We'll get to a point where EVs will be at parity with internal combustion engine, and probably, frankly, a point where they're less than. And so this equation changes, and I think that the government support just helps bridge that change.
Great. Congratulations on your 90 days.
Thank you.
You made it to 90 days. Your performance review's next week.
Okay.
Marissa West.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.